Hey, football players, this episode's for you guys specifically. You're 8 weeks into your season. Do you have more energy than you did at the beginning of the season? Are you banged up and having trouble keeping up with workouts? Are you just as strong, just as fast as you were preseason? Pay attention to this one coming up. Figure out the checklist and see how you can make sure you're back on top of your game. Make sure you subscribe to the button below, hit the bell for notification, and stay tuned for coming up on how to be your best and finish strong your football season.
The Strength of America podcast.
Bob Davis with
Bobby Davis.
Strength of America podcast. Welcome. Episode 33 today. And yes, today we're going over our football players, talking to you guys about where you're at with the season right now, what checklists that we're going to go through for you, and see if we can get you back on track, those of you who are having trouble. So this time of the year, we often see kids that are getting banged up. They're hurt, things are going through, but our thing we want to think about is we're never into a maintenance phase, even in the season. We still should be gaining, getting better as the season goes on. So we've got a few things we want to check off and see where you're at so you know, okay, well, if I'm not at that point, what should I do to help get back on track? One of the some things we want to look at, Bobby.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think, the football season and just the nature of the beast of that type of sport, how physical it is, we got to realize that kids are going to get banged up. They can get beat up. We have kids walking in on Monday and they got bruises off their arms just taking hits. And, it's pretty physical. So, with that said, I always tell my kids, and I've been preaching big time to them lately, it's like, well, I know you're not going to be 100%. Okay, and I know I can't ask that of you, but if I can ask 100% of your effort on that given day that you can give me, that's what I want. Okay, and if we're talking through and I'm talking to these kids and, you're going to have days where you just feel terrible. You don't have it in you. But those days you need to fake it till you make it a little bit. You need to just give it the best that you can on that given day, and that you need to make sure that, maybe you turn it into a day where it's more camaraderie. You're trying to boost your team up, trying to boost your partners up around you. You're just trying to be a positive voice. So, even if you can't give your max that day, you can give your max in another way to help somebody else or help those around you. So I've been big, and like Ron McKeefe said, a rising tide raises all ships, and that's huge. So I think if we can keep that for them in season, that camaraderie, that type of mentality, it just carries in their week, carries in their games, and throughout their year. But with that all said, we talk about them being beat up. How can we kind of help with that process? When Bob talks about it's not a maintenance phase, we're getting better. There's stuff that we got to know as a coach, how to program different exercises to still get stronger, but not to bash them down on top of already taking the beatings already. So,
yeah, and part of that I think is talking about the weight room, where we've got some that we hear don't even touch the weights during the season, which I can tell you is a big mistake. You do need to do that. However, it doesn't mean you're doing the same volume you did over the summertime. Summertime, you've got, that's your downtime. You get a lot of stuff. We're into, gaining beef, getting ourselves stronger, bigger, everything. That's awesome. But we also should be at least keeping up that strength during the year, your squat level, your bench, all those things going on. But it doesn't mean you do all those secondary lifts or keeping up the extra things you're going into. But you've got to keep with the base lifts. Maybe you're not doing them 3 or 4 days a week, each of those, but you're at least hitting everything a couple of times a week. You have to do that to keep up and keep building strength. So what we want you to do is take a look at some of the things that you did over the summertime. Hopefully you guys finished up. You tested yourselves to see where your strength levels were at, like on your bench and your squat, maybe your cleans or deadlifts or any of those things that you have. But you have a base to see, okay, where you were at. Now we also want to see where you're at now. This midpoint into the season, recheck your strength. Are you doing that, or are you just going through lifts and getting some things done? It's important that you understand you have to keep that strength going as you keep up with it. Just like your speed. You gained all that speed and you build into it. Are you slower than you were before? Testing yourself does a couple of things. One, for our athletes, it helps them understand, okay, the effort they're doing, they're getting better. Sometimes coaches don't test them because we find as we talk to different ones, they're afraid, well, what if they're getting less? And they start losing their self-confidence because they're weaker or things going on. Well, we don't not do it to protect them and keep them safe. We do it so that we can see as coaches, are we right on the right program, doing what we need to do? And maybe we need to adjust things, because if you're getting weaker midpoint now at this point, you can't do the same lifts, then we have to adjust what you're doing with those lifts. And again, like I said, changing the volume, changing the times of day, allowing more rest time, whatever it is, we want to keep that strength up, just like your speed. So we need to do that to check where you're at and then make adjustments. And if you're not too sure, or as coaches you're not sure, that's what we're here for. Email us, let us know. Okay, great. We'll either just answer specifically on that, or we'll do another podcast on that subject, because you're not the only one. Because we run into this all the time when we talk to coaches and teams and athletes about this, is they start to lose that. What are some of the things they're beat up, they're banged, they're bruised? What are some of the things they should be doing the night of those games and the day after when they finish up to help the recovery of their body?
Yeah, the biggest thing I try to get them to do on the weekend is just move around. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. Don't be a couch potato, though. If you're a couch potato, you're going to feel that next day when you come in that next week that you're just going to feel stiff, tight. You're going to feel terrible. So I just try to tell them to move around a little bit, go through some more dynamic stretches that we have. I've shown them some basic static stretches to do after some of that stuff. So a lot of it, they just got to try keep moving, keep the blood flowing a little bit, and try to get those muscles a little less bound up. Yeah.
What about, icing their bodies up, or ice baths, or different things after they finish up with their games?
We've had a couple kids that they play both ways, and we got a lot of situations like that at the school that we're at, and kids get beat up. They get a lot of time on the field. And we've had recently one of our kids, he's just been taking an ice bath right at the school right after the game, and he felt the next day, he just felt, quite a bit better than he was the previous week. So, yeah, ice baths are good if you have access to it.
And you guys all got a bathtub and you got ice.
Yeah.
Swing back home on the way back and you pick up one of those 10-pound bags of ice or something on the way back in and get in that thing.
Yeah.
You don't have to jump, start with something a little bit and add the ice or something to it is fine, but you're stretching. How many of you are eating the right way when you finish up your game, or after you get done with a game? Is it pretty
or at
much
least getting
pizza and
something?
soda?
Yeah. Are you getting some protein, something in you?
Yeah, get something to eat rather. And then that next day, you guys finish these Friday night games for you guys, or Saturday mornings for the younger guys. Boy, you've got that weekend, the rest of Saturday and Sunday, to help your body recover. And if you're just doing nothing and you're eating poorly and you're just sleeping, that's not going to help you for Monday. And it makes Monday a lot tougher when you come around to practice time. So getting those frequent meals on the weekdays are important for performance, but they're just as important on the weekends for recovery and helping your body repair and keep up. Continue to hydrate over the weekend, not just having soda because it's weekend time. Get rid of that soda during that season. Get rid of it. There's no reason for it. Hydrate, get yourself going, keep the eating the way you're supposed to do some stretching, do some rolling, and like Bobby said, do some movement. Just get your buddies, get a little basketball, do a little one-on-one, or a couple of you guys playing. Nothing crazy, but move, jump, move, get the interaction, a little plyo work, jumping and landing. Nothing crazy, but just a game of moving. You're going to feel so much better come Monday practice, just getting into that. And then you get back on your weights. Like I said, you got to get in that routine and see where you're at. But too many times we're not testing. And testing is great if you use it, but it's just bad if you're not testing because you're afraid of what you're going to see. Then your program's not getting any better either. You're not expecting it from yourself. So you volunteer coaches are out there that we've helped a lot. Test it. Find out. And again, your parents are going to appreciate it more. You see, okay, well, we're not keeping on. Why? Now let's reevaluate and adjust and do that to get better. That's the idea, not just going through the motions. So you've got to test and you've got to find out what's going on. You get the fuel chart. We're going to make sure we have that down there for you guys as well that we've had in past, but I'll put it in this episode too, so you can set it to your athletes. Hey, guys, see what you're doing. Do a typical day, weekday when you're practicing, and have them do another one on the weekend, the day after their actual game, and compare and see what's going on. And just do their normal one. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect, but it's going to help the kids understand a lot more. They learn so much by filling out that fuel chart. And then we're going to have the guidelines as well, so they know and you know what you can recommend and what they should be doing, how often they should be eating, how much protein, how much water, all of that, so you can make better choices to help them out on the field and recovery.
Yeah, and that gives a lot of context too, because we've gone over quite a few over the summer. Now I can just come around and ask the kids, hey, what were your meals like? And they'll know off the top of the head, yeah, I didn't get it, I didn't prepare. So they know they need to. So it's not necessarily that you have to do this all the time. But do them quite a few times, and do it beforehand. That way when you get to the season, then you can kind of just have conversations and you can kind of slowly pick and tweak as you go. I also think as we're going through when he's talking about testing, you don't have to take a day away from training to test. That's not what he's going for. It's not realistic. So I think when you're going through, just have conversations with your kids, know your kids, watch them play. If they're not moving too well, have a conversation with them, see what's going on. Maybe it's an off day, or maybe they need to do a little individual work on their own. And then outside of that in the weight room, we don't want to do 1RM in season, get kids hurt or anything like that. But I know he would just simply look at their back squat. They're doing a back squat. What's your 5RM like? What was it like over the summer? We can't compare quite the same because we go back squats and then we go to box squats in season to take some load off, some stress. But, we created a competitive atmosphere where kids are slowly chipping away on their final set each week just to go a little bit more. And we set that early in the week so they have the recovery time. But they're also, there's once in a while where, the competitive nature is awesome and we're starting to get that, so it's exciting. Once in a while, a couple lifts, you might have to pull them back a little bit, say, hey, we got to move a little better, so that way you don't bang yourself up in here when you go out there. But, just check on the sheets, just look at things and just watch a little bit more, and you'll get a good idea too. So,
yeah. And that's your checklist. That's what you said. You don't need to designate a day to testing, but you're already in the weight room. You're already doing squats. You're doing sets of 5 on the squats. You're doing sets of 5 in the summer. You know where you're at. If you're doing 50 pounds less now than you were at the beginning of the season, then you got a problem going into it. You need to see what's going on. Same with your bench changing or anything.
And that's where you're going through, and you can say, hey, if you're observant of what's going on, you can say early in the season, is it just a lazy thing? Are they being lazy because they got practice and they're trying to go into coast mode? That's where you can nip it early on and say, hey, we got to start pushing it. That way you don't drop off. If you don't worry about it and then you hit it towards the end of the season, it's too late. You lost an opportunity there. So
yeah, and that's where you're testing. I don't necessarily care about doing the 40-yard time anyway, so I'm not worried about 40 times during that time, because how many of the guys actually run a 40-yard anyway? Yeah. And some of you are still testing linemen on a 40-yard dash, and again, what's the point? But our 10-yard, our initial starts, what we're doing, how we're moving, you're already doing some sprints already in your workout. So what's the problem with having me standing there with a clock and you got one of the coaches there and you mark down the times and you check it periodically just to see where they're at so you can keep on track. But just have the same guy doing the testing all the time on the clock, because some guys are a little slower, some are a little faster, but always have that same guy that does your testing in the summer, same during the school year, everything else going out, so you have a good idea of what's happening with your times. And again, it may just simply be who's paying attention to their starts, where they're getting that first step. Are they stepping backwards and doing that drop step? Are they doing a drop back step? Are they stepping to the side before they go forward? Are they dropping their body and then coming up before they move? Those little things make a difference. But if they're not reminded of it, hey, you forget. You go through your motion. All we're thinking about is just getting off the line or getting moving or getting into position. Well, unless you're doing it well, you're not getting any better. So we got to keep focusing on that. So we'll make sure you guys have the list of the things that we're talking about here, your checklist, hitting these things, everything from the nutrition, the guideline stuff, the testing, what to look for, how to get some things, and any questions. That's what we're here for. Let us know.
Yeah. One other thing I got real quick is in the weight room, we were talking earlier about getting beat up and different things like that. Just make sure that you have, your main lift, and then you have some regressions from that. The main lift that you want to get each day. And something I try to do is I try to let my guys know, if we got hang cleans that day and dudes' elbows and wrists are beat up, they can't catch a bar, or they got a lot of irritation, a bunch of bruises all over, then I tell them either go to a hang pull or a hang jump, and and go from there and go through your progression. Know where you're at for that day and push it the best you can for that day. So I think that's another smart alternative. You don't have to always beat a square peg in a round hole and try to get them to do that. Just make sure that they can find something they can do. Because I was listening to more coaches recently, and it's like if they don't, it was a different thing, if they don't like the exercise, find one that they do. That way they put big effort into it, like a back squat versus front squat, for example. I do buy in that a little bit, but I think more so with the aspect of, as we're going through, like if that given day they feel like they're going to hurt themselves more or not feel good on a hang clean, find something that you can regress. That way they feel they can push themselves on. Because then it's going to help the group around them. It's going to help them get better too. So. And
when he says that, it doesn't mean, okay, get the guy that's lazy and doesn't really want to do that. He's kind of getting away from that. You got to find out what the reason is. Now, if he's just being lazy and he doesn't like doing it, that's a whole nother ballpark. Hey, here's our lift and this is what we do, and you need to get involved and go. But you're banged up and you're doing things because of those thing with the hang clean, power clean, you're doing the hang pulls, any of those. It's all about hip function and movement is what we're after. So again, we're beat up in the arms and the wrists, so catching it, we don't want to beat them up even more. So doing that pull and getting the snap, again, it's all about the hip. And you should be able to do that same amount of weight, you're just not catching it. So do the same ones, it still is going to let you know where you're at. And that's the progress, and that's the idea we've got to find. So yeah, good point. So make sure you always have those things and always have options. But again, the options are more on the things of what's going on with their bodies. If they need that break or need it through, testing, you can get a pretty good idea of what's happening. And that's all you need to see. We just can't be getting weaker during the season. Yeah. We need to get stronger as we go through that process. So maintaining is not really an option for us. It's always getting better, our speed, our power, everything. But if you don't take care of the basics, you're not hydrating right, you're not getting the sleep, you're not consistently eating the way you should be 7 days a week, not just 3 or 4 days a week, but every single day, then you start losing it. And then, like Bobby says, you get nails in your tire, things aren't there. There's a problem with going on. You got these slow leaks. And that's why you're getting beat up during the season. You're going through that because you should be getting stronger all the way, unless you have an injury, of course, and that's something else. But keep working with it. Be consistent in what you're doing. Yeah. But make sure you guys take this, tag a football player to this thing. One more thing I want to put out there. Halloween this year, October 31st of 2018, I guess we're in 18, the football speed program. We've got a 30-day football speed program. A lot of you have taken advantage of it. We're getting some great feedback on that, which is terrific. But right after Halloween, I'm going to start charging for that program. So make sure you share this link. I'll have the link for that program as well, and all you do is put your email and you get to download. We'll give you a password for it, and you'll have that even once we start charging for that program. Your password, we may change it, but we'll keep you in the loop because you're part of that list on the email, so you'll be there. But the workout is set up specifically for twice a week workouts, and they're all videoed, each of those specifically, where we've got a group of your younger athletes going through these drills, and you can see what's good and what's bad, how they're doing it, but we're going to point out each little thing and what you're looking for in each of those to really have football speed, which football speed is really not about the 40. You can have a great 40 time, that's great, but that first reaction, the movement, decelerating, change in direction, being explosive, powerful first step is what this program's about. So appreciate the feedback we've been getting from you guys on that, but share it with your teammates, tag this thing, tag the link for the football program as well. Get them in on it because, like I said, Halloween, we start charging for it. We'll put it out there. So we're getting the feedback enough. It's time to get that out on a bigger scale. So thanks for being a part of the Strength of America family. And make sure, again, you subscribed already. If you haven't, make sure you hit the bell for notification on the YouTube page and let us know how we can help. But keep getting stronger. That's football season. Keep going. Don't expect injuries and, I'm tired or I can't do this. And that's part of the game. It's not. If you prepare, you're the top part that can finish strong throughout that season. So
yep, consistency is king.
Yep, you got it. All right. Thanks a lot. Appreciate you guys being with us, and we'll see you next week. Let us know questions you've got. theSOApodcast at gmail.com, or just comment below. Let us know. We'll help you out. All right. Thanks.
See you
on the
later.
field.